welcome to Young Buffalo. I'm your host, Zion Wilson, and I'm here today with Miss Leah Halton-Pope. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, um, Miss Pope, is that what you want to be called? Is that fine?
Halton Pope. I mean, I
Okay,
didn't have any brothers.
Halton-Pope.
hmm
All right, so Miss Halton-Pope, she is the winner of the Ellicott District, for Common Council, and I just have a few questions for her today. So, the first one being, what is your educational background and how has it led to your current career?
So I went to school for policy, public policy specifically. So it was a political science and psychology major. Um, so I always kind of had a heart for government and how things worked, and that would be how it kind of tied in together. The
Mhm.
first time I ever got engaged in anything governmental was in high school. I ran for office freshman year, sophomore year, and my junior year, or sophomore, junior, and senior year.
Oh, that's great. So, when did you start your political career officially?
Officially, as a candidate, this was the first time I've ever run for real public office.
Really?
Yes, so for me to run for the very first time publicly and to be in a four-way primary,
Mhm.
3 men and me, this was the first time. It was daunting, and to come out with almost 50% of the vote in a four-way is I'm very grateful. God is kind.
Yeah. So, you were up against three men. How was that experience for you? Would that like put you at a disadvantage? Do you think?
Um, I don't think it put me at a disadvantage. I don't choose to look at these situations as a negative thing. I look at it as an opportunity to
Mhm.
kind of shine a little bit brighter. What set me apart from the other three is actually had some governmental experience. Like I've been working in government overall, maybe 20 something years. And the last 10 years of the time period is in right here in the city of Buffalo with the majority leader. And so to be able to use my experience, my relationships that I've built over my tenure of working and living, um, I think it must have resonated with the voters,
Mhm.
given the turnout.
I bet it did. So, I've seen you're very big on generational wealth because I was looking at your website and I really do love your platform. So, I've seen you're big on generational wealth. What can we do or what can you do as a council member to encourage generational wealth?
So I think the first thing we have to do. I grew up in a household where my parents. I don't know if do you get allowance or did you ever get an allowance? No.
Kind of.
So we did.
Mhm.
It wasn't a lot. It was a
Mhm.
very small amount. I mean, the way my parents set it up was we would get our allowance, and then we were told that 10% had to go to charity.
Mhm.
We give to the church, 10% there. A certain percentage had to go into savings, and then the rest you can just use however you felt was necessary.
Mhm.
And having some financial literacy is how you start that process. So I think for a young person to start to create generational wealth, you need to start saving now.
Mhm.
Like just start putting aside a small amount every month will add up in the long run,
Mhm.
especially if it's in a high interest earning or yielding savings account or
Mhm.
something. But for your parents, grandparents, etc., if they would even having a will, having you as a beneficiary on insurance should anything happen, and then also teaching you the tools to save now, that's how you start creating generational wealth. Being a homeowner, that
Mhm.
creates generational wealth. And so those are some simple things, but as a young person, start saving your money. It's the biggest thing. And being smart about what you do. So when you get ready to go to college, the first thing they're going to do is hand you a whole bunch of applications for credit cards. You're going to see those come
Mhm.
up. You do need one or two, but if
Mhm.
you can't afford to pay for it, don't do it. Like I got an American Express my freshman year of college,
Mhm.
and it had no limit,
Mhm.
and you had to pay that off every month. So I could have gone out and bought a car, but I'd have to pay that off the next month. And once I paid off that very first big bill, I gave my card to my dad and was like, "Don't give it back to me."
Hey, boss. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
You sure?
I said I'm fine.
Since I was little, it was only like me and my parents.
You think you created family out of characters?
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna take that, make it into a song.
Put me to bed, see you in the morning. With the frosted Superman, but it wasn't on it. And we lost it. In my head, in my head, in my head. Where you at? Where you at? On the way out. In my head, in my head, in my
Hey, son.
Hey, Pop.
You can talk to me.
It's been really, really hard for me.
Yeah, I also see people just completely stay away from credit cards because of that. But I just think people need to learn to be smarter with that choice that they're making. I
As a
think.
Yeah, I agree. I think as a community we can do a better job of financial literacy. And so
Hmm.
when I worked for Girl Scouts for many years, and one of the programs I worked with little kids all the way up to older than you.
Hmm.
And we did these financial literacy programs where we allowed you, for your age group, it would be imagining you're already out of college and you would
Hmm.
pick what your career would be. I had all of the salaries for those, most of the careers that most people would choose, everything from being an actor to being a lawyer, a judge, or something like that. And teaching you how to go through your tax bite and figuring that out. You made choices about whether I rent or own a home, if I have a roommate or if I live alone, what kind of car do I drive? Did I buy a brand new car? Did I get a used car? And starting to think about things from that perspective will tell you how your money how it can be spent, how
Yeah.
it'll flow. And I think that's helpful. And a lot of parents, even after that was over, they were like, "Who taught you this?" Like, my mom and dad. Let me just tell you, I totally forgot some of it though, because
Hmm.
I am not perfect. But I've learned since then, and so now it's my job to make sure the next generation is smarter than I was.
Okay. I feel like in schools, I feel like that should be talked about more because a lot of kids are very responsible with spending,
Hmm.
and it's not talked about enough in schools. We don't really know what to do. I'm glad my family has taught me about saving a little bit more. I wish I had that experience you gave those other girls, but I did get talks about saving my money. I've been saving since I was younger, so I think schools need to include that somewhere. I don't know where,
So there
but
are some financial institutions that are working with Buffalo Public Schools and other schools throughout the region to make sure that kids get some financial literacy classes.
mhm,
There's some organizations like Junior Achievement that and they've been in existence for years, like older than I am.
mhm.
I know I'm super old. But they do talk about financial literacy. So when you talk about generational wealth, saving is important, but understanding how dollars work,
Mhm.
how things work, and the benefit of investing in yourself. And that can mean buying a home, buying something that's gonna last for a long time, that's gonna appreciate in value, which is
Mhm.
why your savings is good. Because then
Mhm.
as it builds, like by the time you're my age, you'll be running circles around everybody if you're saving right now.
I am saving right now, and I hope
Good.
everyone else is. So, what advice can you give our generation so we can build generational wealth aside from what we've talked
Aside
about?
from saving,
Yeah.
I think if you still need to learn a few things, you need to sit down and have a conversation with your family, right?
Mhm.
What kind of plans do we have in place? If your parents or grandparents don't have a will, um, that impacts you ultimately in the long run.
Mhm.
If I think talking to each other, being smart about how I spend, doesn't matter what it is. If all I have is $10, I shouldn't be spending the whole $10 on something. If
Mhm.
that's all I've got for the whole week, then I need to think about how I use it. And I also think it's really important to um, give back.
Mhm.
So also consider that charity piece.
Okay. So, I also have noticed you want to create a strong and safer community. How do you plan to do this?
So I think you do that by creating a neighborhood stabilization plan. And by neighborhood stabilization, I mean focusing on our small businesses and investing in them. So, like on Jefferson, where we are right now, helping to support those businesses. But then you have to also encourage people to come. Then the other issue that a lot of community people have talked about, safer neighborhoods also include safe streets, like making your streets, sidewalks, and curbs are completely done. That's investing in the infrastructure, having a better relationship with the police department. They have a community policing, which they just come and they show up in the neighborhood. They spend time with the community. You get used to seeing them. I think that that's how we start to feel safer, when you know those who are representing you, those who are here to help us, that we have a relationship with them. I think you feel safer in your neighborhoods. They know to answer the call, like, oh, well, if Zion is calling me, this, this is a serious thing. This isn't a prank. This isn't anything. Or when you see them on the street, they'll start speaking to you. It builds better relationships.
Okay, I think a lot of people, they don't see the police as like a
Yeah.
safe space, and that's really unfortunate considering all the things that's happened. So I don't know.
So, unfortunately, that's true for some.
Mhm.
I would not for everybody. And so I think the first thing you have to do is build better relationships, right? So our neighborhoods are safe because we communicate with each other. We know our neighborhoods. We know our neighbors. We spend time with each other. I think when you're living in silos, it doesn't help. And so that's part of what creates a safe neighborhood as it relates to our community police officers, which are different than your rank and file. Like these are the people that you sometimes see in the blue shirts and the shorts, and they might be on a bike, they might walk up, they show up at events. We have a lot of officers who do live in the city, who grew up in the communities, and they want to see their neighborhoods thrive. Those are the officers that I think we should focus on building better relationships with. But it's a two-way street. Like you talk to them, they talk to you. And I think you do that by just spending time with them.
Mom, I got it. What are you doing in there?
I got stuck.
Are you a dog?
I wouldn't do that. Have you seen the pliers? Where'd you find those?
It's not your birthday.
Sorry.
Bye, Grandpa.
Bye, Grandpa.
Take care of yourself.
What are you doing? What are you looking for?
Regardless of where you are on your path to retirement, you can still take charge of your financial future today. Visit aceyourretirement.org and answer a few questions from Avo, your friendly digital retirement coach, for free tips, resources, and advice customized for your situation to help you feel confident and prepared for retirement. Retirement looks different for everyone. Make sure you're prepared for your financial future at aceyourretirement.org.
Yeah, I would like to see neighborhoods get better at like communicating with each other to create a safer environment. And a lot of neighbors also don't talk to each other anymore.
Exactly.
So it's really like, I don't know, I've noticed in my neighborhood a lot of like we used to all talk to each other, but we kind of just, stopped at a certain point.
Well, I think creating block clubs is another opportunity. So if your neighborhood doesn't already have a block club, where you have those community gatherings, our community was always built on coming together, talking about issues, working out plans, working together to clean up the street together, having cookouts on the street or a block party of sorts. Those kind of activities are what makes our neighborhood stronger, and it builds community. And that includes working with police officers, but also getting to know your neighbors. When you live in a silo, how can your neighbor say, "Oh no, I know Zion," if I've never talked to her? "Oh no, I can vouch for her. No, this young lady is always great. She's always respectful." Nobody can say that if I never talk to you.
Yeah, I just would like to see a lot of neighborhoods get better at doing that
I
because it's
would
so
too.
sad to see. So, what were some of your challenges you had in the primary election?
Um, Being the only woman in the race kind of provided its own challenge to some extent. I think I had more people tell me that I had to wear my hair straight, that I have to wear dresses, not pants, that things that they would never say to a man. Um, some people would try to diminish me, not necessarily always because of gender, but the questions that they would ask or say things that they would say to me they would never say to a man. That was probably the one of the challenges. The other is because I was connected with a lot of people, because I've worked in this industry for as long as I have, I've built up relationships, and people try to make that seem like a negative. I personally think it's better for the entire city and for Ellicott in particular to have these relationships, because then I can bring in resources for our community. I can make calls to people on every level of government that would affect change and create an environment in a district that we can really be proud of. And that's what I desire to see here in Ellicott.
I would love to see that. How did you overcome all those challenges?
Um, so I was raised by really strong parents, all girls. And so they taught us to be strong and independent. My dad had this statement. He used to say, "Leah, you are not a thermometer which reads the temperature. You are to be the thermostat. It is my job to change environments and communities." And so I can get stuck in my head about the negative, or I can remember my purpose and why I'm here and do that. And that's what I try to focus on. And that's how I overcame it.
Okay, so for my last question for you, who are some influences in your professional career?
Well, I work for Majority Leader Crystal People Stokes as her senior advisor. She is the first woman of color when she was appointed the end of 2018 and started in 2019 as majority leader. There had not been a woman in that position in 242 years in the New York State history. And in the 10 years I've worked with her, we would oftentimes be the only women in the room. She would have to make decisions that were really hard. Sometimes they might not have been something she personally wanted, but the community did. And so she had to speak up for them. And I respected that about her. I have really great parents, my mom and my dad. So, of course, they have very strong influence. And I worked for them. So they were really good business owners. Um, and and a host of other individuals right here in the city of Buffalo and throughout this country that remind me every day of my purpose and my passion and how we're supposed to leave this planet better than we found it. And so that's what I try to live to do every day because they set an example.
Well, that's great. You had so many people that kind of like helped you become who you are as a person in the political, as a woman in the political industry. So sorry. So
Thank you.
unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you all for watching Young Buffalo. Again, I'm your host, Zan Wilson. Bye.
When I got the opportunity to get her, there wasn't no choice. I told myself, I'm gonna take custody of my daughter. It's my baby. That's what we're supposed to do as men. Take care of our home, build a foundation, you know what I'm saying? Love, our money, she's my purpose. I'm here to walk with her, hold her hand until she can walk alone. Ain't nothing like being a father in this world.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. Those 9 months were also 273 days of planning. What about your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. And let's not forget those barbecues you plan in detail for your family and your more vegetarian by the day best friends. That surprise party for your parents' golden anniversary? You get the golden planning. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
Hey, boss. Okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
You sure?
I said I'm fine.
Since I was little, it was only like me and my parents.
You think you created family out of characters?
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna take that, make it into a song.
Put me to bed, see you in the morning. With the frosted Superman, but it wasn't on it. And we lost it. In my head, in my head, in my head. Where you at, where you at, on the way out. In my head, in my head, in my head.
Hey, son.
Hey, Pop.
You can talk to me.
It's been really, really hard for me.
Hello, this is Young Buffalo, and I'm your host for Yeha. Today, I got Jasmine here so that we can talk all about Heartbreak High. I watched Heartbreak High, and then a few days later, I saw you watching it because I heard. Now, I forgot a little bit about it, so you're gonna have to tell me the names. What's the principal's name?
I don't know all the names either, but we can look it up if you want to.
I mean,
know.
okay, well, it was the
Ona?
principal. I heard the principal's name. I mean, the principal talking on your phone, and I remember the exact scene, and her voice is so funny. Anyways, so yeah, we're gonna talk all of it about it. So you finished it recently, and just tell me your thoughts.
My thoughts about it, it's like it really like gave like somewhat flashbacks about how high school was.
Really, you found it relatable?
Yeah, somewhat. Like how just everything like all like the gossip was just going around, so it's just like dang, like this is real life high school. But it had like some type of emotions, like deep emotions to it as well. So I
Touched on
liked
some
it.
really difficult topics.
Yeah. It was really I liked it. It was really I could like I like shows that I connect with. Like that I can like be like, oh yeah, that like, I can relate or whatever. But yeah, I really like it.
I mean, I kind of connected with like the social political topics that it touched on, but I wasn't somebody who had a lot of friends in high school, so the whole like gossip thing I was kind of like on the outside of. So when I like me watching it, I didn't find it relatable more than I found it like very classic Gen Z high school.
Right.
It was like the outfits and their vernacular and all that stuff. Very, very like classic high school in that sense, but not that I found it personally like relatable. But I did like how they touched on all the topics.
Yeah.
How did you feel like in the beginning of when you were starting it to like the end? Like what really stood out to you? Because it's Australian.
Right. So. What really stood out is when Harper just came back to school and just didn't talk to Amelie the whole entire time. I don't know if I'm saying her name right.
I like how they did that. Like I wasn't expecting it. I just saw I like wanted to watch it because I saw stuff that said it had an autistic lesbian in it, and I was like, okay, I'd be interested in this. So I watch it, and then I'm like hit with stuff that I wasn't expecting in it.
Right.
And it was like leaving out a bunch of things, and they did it really well because it really like tied together in the end, and I liked how they tied it up so nicely in the end. But you were lost for the whole show because you just like the main people are like you don't know what
it was just plot
is going on with Harper. Like what's wrong?
Right,
She
that was the whole question.
I was like,
what is wrong?
I was like, but yeah, no. But they did it nicely in the end, so it was right there. Sometimes they don't wrap it up really nicely. I love the wrap up. How did you feel about the ending, like specifically?
What happened at the end? I forgot what happened at the
Okay.
end. You might have to do like a
I
little
don't
recap.
remember their names, but Cash, the criminal.
Cash.
The end is mainly like
went to
his
jail,
big,
right?
his big confession to. I
That
forgot his
is
name.
right.
What's his name? I
Darian.
think Darian.
The dude, right?
That's their name. It started with a D. I didn't
Yeah,
think
his
it
name
was
is Darian.
Darian. Okay, well, yeah, Cash confesses to them, and it was honestly, they're the sweetest couple. So I love that part the most. I really hope they're getting a season 2, so I really hope that their relationship is like really good because their relationship was so freaking rocky. And honestly, Darian, I was like, they are so horny. Like they needed to calm down because Cash was so sweet.
Right.
But
he wasn't new to it though.
Yeah, he was like
he wasn't really accepting the fact that he's like really like, you know.
I don't know. It was crazy. It's so high school. That's why it was like freshman in the city. And I'm just like, oh my god, why are you acting so immature? But I'm like, they're kids, obviously. But I kind of like how they did that because every like couple had their own problem when it came to like the main thing about it was like sex ed. So I like how they touched on it with every single couple. They all had their own different problems. How do you think about how well they like kind of formatted it so that it could bring up the discussion about sex ed?
What do you mean?
Like that's like the kind of like the main point. It starts off with the big wall, the what they call incest map, and then you see it slowly happen to everything this year. So, what did you feel about how they represented sexual education?
I feel like it was like kind of like a lesson somewhat. Like it was a good like, how can I say this? It attracted people our age because that's, you know, our generation type stuff.
Right.
So, it's like it was like a lesson for real, a interesting lesson / TV show.
Thank you, Jasmine, for coming here and talking all about Harper Kai. Very interesting. Love to chat. Thank you for watching, and this is it.